Great, and we're live. So welcome everybody to this remote interview. My name is Lisette, and I am interviewing people and companies doing great things remotely. And today on the line, all the way from Kitchener, Canada, I have David Mansilla. David, I see that you're the founder and CEO of ISU Corp. And on your LinkedIn, it says leading high-tech companies to the next level. I like that. So we're going to dive into that, but welcome today. And I want to start by asking what I always ask, which is, what does your virtual office look like? What do you need to get your work done?
Sure. So I'm a technical person, so I love gadgets. So I probably have more stuff than I actually need. And I tend to travel a lot for business. So I have different setups depending on where I'm spending most of my time. So I'm going to give you an example. At home, I run with a Surface Pro 3. I have a large monitor, and I have a Microsoft Light Chat headset. That one I use at home. I find, by the way, the Microsoft Light Chat headsets are the best for noise canceling, and they're very inexpensive, so they're pretty good.
Good tip.
Yeah. And I tried hundreds of headsets, from expensive ones to anything. Because, once you're in a bar or you're in a party and you have to have an urgent call, you need that noise canceling, right? Totally. So that's at home. Then we actually have we have a home office that we have a house that we turn into an office. So that's where my main desk is. So when I'm in Canada, that's where I work most of my time from. In there, what I have a set of 3 24-inch monitors. I run on a MacBook Pro. Actually, that's what I'm using right now. And I also have another Surface Pro 4 connected to those monitors. When I'm at the office, I don't like using headsets. So what I have is a Jerry semi-high-end Jerry mic, and just stereo speakers, Bose stereo speakers. So that allows me to have conference calls with my hands free. Sometimes I even stand up and I have like a glass whiteboard on the back of my office. So it allows me to stand up and start writing on the whiteboard if I need to. But to be honest with you, 99% of the time when I have a remote meeting, I don't turn on the camera. It's only with voice.
Okay. Any particular reason for that?
Yes, I find, number one, depending on the country that I'm talking with, or even sometimes in Toronto, the internet quality is not consistent, so we may have lags. And also, a lot of the times we're actually looking at somebody else's screen. So we're actually working remotely, looking at code or looking at design for a website. So that's where our focus needs to be on.
Yeah, fair enough. Those are two very good reasons not to use video, in fact.
Right.
Yeah.
I also had a horror story. I want to tell you that. Oh my God, that was funny.
Oh, now you have to tell it.
2011, we had a meeting with one of our corporate clients, big client, and we didn't have this rule that no webcams on yet. And one of our coders was in his basement, and he didn't have a shirt on, and because it was a really hot day, and he forgot to turn off his webcam. So all of a sudden, nobody noticed. For like 20 minutes, nobody noticed until this director from a high-rise building in downtown Toronto, he's saying, "Are you naked?" Because he can't show the actual webcam. So I told him quickly to turn it off. And he said, "It was already so hot over here, and I work from home, right?"
Right. No, but it's true. I mean, we do talk about, you would never show up at the office without your shirt on or naked, of course.
Right.
So it's, when we're working from home, we do often talk like, well, we could work in our pajamas, but still for a lot of remote workers, there is a level of professionalism in wearing professional clothes at home when we're on the webcam, at least professional shirts at the very least. So yeah, there is that differentiation, and we still bring some of the in-office things to the virtual world because of how we work and how we judge each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I have is, and I use it a lot of the time, especially when I'm traveling, I have an iPhone 6s, and I have a high-end earphones. And believe it or not, like I take calls on my car with that. When I'm at the gym, if I have a high important meeting, I just lower the treadmill to a slow speed, and I do it from there. And I can even see screencasting using my phone. And it's crazy because if you compare the three environments, probably the one that I use the most is my phone.
Right. Amazing what we can do with these little blocks of...
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
It changes everything. So let's talk a little bit about ISU Corp. Tell us, so you're a software development company. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do, and then how you as a company work. Is it remote? Do you have a headquarters? What does that look like?
Sure. Yeah, we're 100% remote. We only have, again, we bought a small house to make it our main office. We used to have an office back in 2005 for several years when we started, but it was just to try to build a reputation. Things were very different 11 years ago than they are now. So it was a lot harder to convince companies that we could do the work remotely. So we ended up being one of the most prestigious buildings in Waterloo, and that actually gave us a lot of credibility at the beginning. Funny enough, though, the office was mainly for sales and accounting and marketing, and none of the developers were there at all, right? But I could actually bring clients over and gain their trust. Also, as soon as they saw the office address, they realized, okay, this company is reputable, right? Because not anybody can afford a place like that. So we started like that, and then I realized, oh my God, like after 5 years of being there, I realized that probably one client a year was coming to the office. Everybody else was 100% remote, or I will go see the client, right? So then I made my numbers, and I thought, you know what? I think I can actually mortgage a house and move those operations into a small property and have the benefits of having a full kitchen, a full bathroom, right? So that's where we are right now. I could actually have no offices at all, but I'm the type of person, maybe because I grew up in the corporate world, that I'm the type of person that when I'm in town, I need to go to an office outside of my house. Mm-hmm. So the first 6 months when I started the company, I was working out of Starbucks, and that got boring really fast. So then I tried working from home, and after 4 or 5 hours of being in the same place where I sleep, I got very, very desperate. So we still feel like we're working from home because it's a house, but it's still an office, And that's only for me and my accounting team, my marketing team, nothing to do with technology, right?
Okay,
yeah. The rest of the people, everybody else is remote. And I will say, even myself, if you put all the months that I'm together in Canada, it's probably 5 months out of the year that I'm actually in the country.
Oh, wow. Okay. And when you said you were noticing that less and less clients were coming into the office, that's an interesting trend. Why is that?
Well, number one, we are a software consulting firm. So basically, we solve problems, IT problems for our clients on the software side, software development side. So we create new applications, we automate business processes, or we simply get hired to fix their development team because they might not be producing the way they should be. And so we go in there and, we see what's going on, and we give them help, get them out of their trouble, and then teach them how to run a proper software lifecycle process.
Okay.
So inherently, our clients want us to go to their office, right? And in fact, at the beginning of the company was really, really hard because I was the one, so I'm a coder. And when I started my own business, I was pretty much selling myself. So it was only me and 2 other guys. And the problem that we had is we had no problem closing contracts, but they wanted us to work out of their office. So it was basically, instead of having a full-time job, was basically having 4, 5, 6 months contract on site. And that's available, right? So it took me at least 3 years to learn how to break that, that chain that I was building with the client, right? And and letting them trust me without me being there.
How did you build that trust? That's a huge transition. That's a big deal.
Yeah, basically, I had to conquer my fears, and I had to go in and tell them that I had people smarter than me doing the work, and it was going to be a lot more efficient for them and less expensive for them if they allow me to have my team deliver. But I will be ultimately responsible. So one of the things that I did is I raised my hourly rate from like $100 an hour to like $300 an hour. So if they wanted to hire me, they will have to pay a lot of money.
Okay.
Which means it will be a lot more expensive. And this is only for all the new clients. So now what happens now is that I never charge for my time. So I go to my clients still, but I go just to check on them or to build rapport or to fix problems if we're running into trouble into projects. I go there, try to give them advice on what to do or whether the problem is our end or their end. There's always problems. I have that skill that I can identify what the problem is and provide a practical solution to it. So I still visit all my clients, but I'm not there 24/7 like I used to be.
Right, but still, they now trust that your team is going to deliver on the promises that you've made, even though your team is remote. So that's a pretty big accomplishment. So I guess
yes.
I'm assuming part of the reason that you did it is because your team delivered and they saw that your team could deliver. So it's just a matter of getting them to trust that first step of
definitely. Yeah. And you know what? Like it didn't happen overnight. It was a transition. It was a hard transition trying to work towards that. And when I'm telling my clients, my developers are smarter than me, it's true. I'm not lying, right? So, yeah, my throughput could be so much, but my good job is to hire better people than me, right? So if I'm good enough, then they're gonna get rock stars, and they're gonna see it on the delivery, right? So moving to Agile helped a lot, and we adopted Agile since 2006, I believe, probably a year after we started. We started learning Agile and adopting it. And because we're all remote, we wrote a piece of software. Back then there wasn't much. So we wrote a piece of software that will do the stand-up scrums via Scrum Chat. So we call it Scrum Chat, and we created an automation system within this program that basically would produce the report for them, the Scrum report, what they did before, what they're doing today, and what are their blockers. So it was automatic. So instead of taking 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it will take 5 minutes. And it's still an online interaction, but the reports are ready. And then the people that need to talk to each other will go off and they'll create a session, right? So I will still be able to provide visibility through the projects without having the developers there. That helped a lot. And then I created something, the weekly status report, that is part of our best practices and our standards, where it shows all the user stories, this progress against the sprint. It's showing where we're behind, on track, or ahead of schedule. And we have weekly meetings with our clients so that they can see. So the way to get people to trust you is to provide 100% transparency and never lie. You do that, and then they realize, oh my God, these guys are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. Or if there is any trouble, we never hide it. We expose the problems and we tell them what we think we can do to fix, or we even ask for help from their end, right? So
I love it.
You build a company on trust and transparency, you can be anywhere in the world, right? But that has to be there.
Right. I love it. 100% transparency and never lie.
Exactly.
So it's hard to do. I mean, easier said than done.
It's super hard to do, but when we hire somebody, like a new hire, they go through a 3-month process of getting rid of their old habits, because a lot of people, they especially when they come from the corporate world, they play corporate politics. They try to cover their own backs. You know what I mean? Like, that's ingrained in a big corporation. And I mean, not all of them are like that, but pretty much a pretty high percentage of them are like that. So we have to actually clean the people that come over, and we have to make sure they have the right attitude, so they actually start adopting our process. And they realize, oh my God, it's a lot easier to be transparent. It's a lot easier to be honest. And it's a lot more fun because you don't have to be hiding anything. You just expose what you're doing, and that also motivates you to do better, right? And, it's through culture, basically. It's like, I have a problem, I'm stuck. I said this user story was going to take 2 hours. It's taking me 2 days already. I need help. Then we get somebody to help them, and we figure it out together as a team, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like you guys are great at providing visibility and also what I like to call working out loud, where you're letting each other know what you're working on, through the Scrum chat and the weekly meetings and status reports. What's something that you guys struggle with as a remote team? What's hard for you?
Um, One of the biggest issues that we had is being able to let go of having the developer being in front of you and trusting the developer that he was going to finish up on time. And sometimes, I still get scared, but you got to remember, I was a corporate employee for 15 years before I started my own business. So I still had that, that mindset. And, sometimes we actually get behind in projects. And it's because despite that we have all these amazing tools that we built and we use the latest technology in communication, sometimes, stuff doesn't get translated properly. And what they understood we needed to do wasn't exactly what we needed them to do. So that once they come back, they're like, oh my God, no, I wanted green, I didn't want blue, for example, right? So those are challenges that we still go through from time to time, but every year is better and it gets easier. And we do it all through best practices, right? And that's why we don't allow to wait until the sprint finishes for a review. That's why we do the weekly reviews, because if the Scrum report and the Scrum meetings tells you, okay, I'm advancing, I'm doing great, but you don't have visibility into that user story until the user story is done. So by creating a weekly status meeting and showing what you have so far, you can quickly say, oh my God, you're going left. You were supposed to go right. So we're not wasting a lot of time and we're waiting for like a 30-day sprint to realize that what we're doing is incorrect. Even if it's just partial work. Right?
So faster feedback loops. That's sort of one of the better things of Agile is all the feedback loops that are built into the whole methodology.
Exactly. Yes.
What are some of your tools that you guys use to communicate with each other?
So we use Zoom a lot lately. We've been using Zoom more and more. Our standard is GoToMeeting, and it's just because we started using it since it came out because it was fantastic, right? And we can actually record sessions. So we do use a lot of GoToMeeting. We have an internal tool called HubLink, which that's what provides the transparency to the clients. So every conversation happens there. We upload all the meetings. So we record every meeting. We upload it there as a movie. Basically, it's little portals. Each portal is a project. And then the client is in there. If they have questions, they go through HubLink. You can make a blog or make a post. You can have a conversation. And everything gets documented there. So you can upload your files. The files doesn't have to be HubLinked, but all the file links to like Dropbox or Google Drive, all the links are in there, organized in the projects, which we call them portals, right? And it's beautiful because as soon as we deliver this to the client, then we eliminate the phone calls. We eliminate the email chains. And that eliminates ambiguity, right? And then if anybody has any questions, that you go to the right portal, they don't even have to search for the information. The portal makes sure that the information is at their fingertips. So
I love it. They can check in at any time.
Anytime, right? And we, for example, we're making a design for an Android application right now. Very, very complicated. It's a service application that produces tickets. It's completely disconnected, but it has to synchronize over Wi-Fi. And so we had a meeting with our client, and it was like a 3-hour meeting to define this thing because it's already running on desktop. They just wanted a mobile version. And yesterday I had a design meeting with one of our designers, and it was incredible that we actually had the movie, and then we can just go back to the movie and just put it forward, backwards, pause it to actually get all our questions answered. Before we would have to have another meeting with the client and waste their time. And, when you start having another conversation, you tend to go off track, right? So having those recordings is phenomenal. And we've been doing it for like 5 years already.
Wow. So I find that that's a tip that I usually give to people that most haven't heard about. What made you start recording your meetings? I think it's genius.
80-20, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I read the 4-hour work week, I came to the conclusion that everything that I analyze has to be 80-20. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to steal my client's time. I have to make sure I'm going to take the most out of it. I'm going to try to make sure I don't have to call them again. How do I do that? Because we're going to have questions, right? Well, we record the conversation and then we can go back. And you know what? That was one of the single factors that allows me to have my clients trust me too, because they can see the movies in the portal. They can see that we actually recorded what we want. And then the questions go back in the portals and everything gets documented there. So
Right.
we invested heavily in internal tools to allow us to be more efficient in our processes.
And is your team all located within Canada, or are you all over the world? What does that look like?
So we're most in the Americas. We have people in 8 countries. We're a very small company, very, very small. But we have people in Canada, the USA, Latin America, and we have one guy in Spain. One of our top architects are in Spain, and everybody else is throughout Latin America. We don't go past that because we still work together, right? So we want to be within a reasonable time zone. So our maximum allowance is 3 hours. With this person in Spain, he actually moved from Latin America to Spain, and I told him, let's make a trial. Let's see if it works out. As it turns out, because of our processes, somebody else takes the meetings for him, and 6 hours, 7 hours, we can still have a meeting at 11 a.m., and it's fine with him, 10 a.m. So, and because he's so efficient, I had no problem, but he's the exception. Usually I try to keep it within 3 hour time zone changes.
Sure. Time zones are tough for everybody. So I think it's smart you organized like from north to south in some ways instead of east-west, which is also, something I've heard recommended. Yeah. Yes. Very, very wise. And do you have things like, except for the guy in Spain, does most of your team have some sort of agreement in terms of what hours they need to work? Are there core hours, or does everybody decide? How does that work?
Yeah, so again, we only hire rock stars. So we try to make sure our people have an entrepreneurial mindset, and they, transparency, right? They do what they say they're going to do, and they have to be there for meetings. Everything else is up to them. So we pay them a full-time salary, and the hours, because we're a consulting firm, we have to make sure they work 40 hours a week, but they can work from wherever they want and at whatever time they want, as long as they're available for client meetings or internal meetings.
Okay.
That was an evolution too, right? At the beginning, I was forcing people to do this and that, and actually the business analysts and the project managers tend to have to work within Canadian work hours, but the coders, I had a guy that he's actually our director of architecture. So he's the smartest, brightest guy in the company. And sometimes he goes to Thailand, to China, to Indonesia, and we don't even know he's not there, right? Because he delivers and he's available for meetings, right?
Right. Yeah, indeed. So do you have any hiring tips for how do you find those rock stars? Is there something that you do in your hiring process that weeds the non-rock stars out?
Yeah, it's so hard. And that's why we're not bigger. It's designed on purpose, because we actually tried to get bigger back in 2010 to 2011. And what we did was we broke the culture, and we brought a whole bunch of people because we had more contracts, but it was counterproductive. Our profit margin went down, our morale went down. It was a mess, and it's just because we relaxed our hiring process. So I always tell my clients, I spend more time looking for talent than looking for work. And for us, it's not easy. Like the people that want to work with us, they basically get trained before we hire them because it takes so long. So we have a 5 to 6 job interview process. Every interview the first one is attitude interview, so a psychological test. The next one is a technical one. The other one is another technical. Then we have another attitude test. Then we have another technical. And they are not exams, right? What we do is we tell them, you have 2 days to do this, 3 days to do this, figure it out. We want to know that they can learn by themselves. And we want to know that by the end of the process, if they are eager enough to work for us, they're going to be ready, right? For example, one of the technical questions one of the technical interviews are, create a Scrum plan and define your sprints. And, some of the coders, they know about Scrum and they deliver the stuff, but they are not Scrum masters. But the end of the job interview process, they could actually pass the Scrum Master exam if they want
Wow.
to work for us, right? So we try to stretch them, and then you can see whether they have a good attitude or not, right? And even after that, we have the 3 months probation process where they stay or they go, right? And for us, the technical part has to be there, it has to be very strong, but it's most important the attitude part. Are you willing to share your information? Are you willing to be positive? Are you a backstabber or not? Do you want to stay with us for a long time? We try to make relationships forever, not, and that's why we don't grow fast too, right? Because remember, we're project-based. We don't have a recurring business model. So that's my job, right? I have to get more work to keep the people that I love, and I have to love everybody that is in the company, right? In return, they give me their best of their time and they give me their best of their brain. And that's how you build a culture, right?
Right. I've heard that quite a lot, is don't skimp on the hiring. Always just take as long as you can, long as you need to get the right people in the company. Yeah, and it's so hard. I asked this question specifically because so many companies struggle with finding good people that will really fit in the culture. And of course, it's really trial and error for both people. You don't always know what you're going to get. People can look really good on paper and do great in the interview and then just not fit somehow. So I don't think there's a magic bullet. I'm just always curious what people do. So we're coming to the end of the time, which is crazy. It's gone so fast. But I want to ask you about advice that you would have for teams that are just starting out. From what you've learned in this whole experience, sounds like you guys have really been really deliberate about how you've done things, very smart. So what advice do you have?
So the first thing I tell them to do, the first thing that made us successful is under-promise and over-deliver. Be completely transparent. Have vision for where you want to do, what you want to do and how you want to grow. And be honest, right? When you run into trouble, expose it as soon as the trouble starts and ask for help, right? And at the very beginning, you have to take whatever it comes. You don't have the luxury to choose your clients. But once you have an established client set, then you can start getting pickier. For example, with us, we only work with companies now that share our values or has at least 80% alignment with our values, right? And that's very important. We could be 5 times as big as we are right now, but what does that mean, right? Do we really need more money? Or we want to be happy working every day? Do I want to get up in the morning and go to my office? Or I'm going to dread making that extra penny, right? That's a big, that's a big decision you have to make early in your life, because all we got is health and time. Money really helps us be happier with our health and our time. So you really have to focus on where do you want to spend. Yeah, you can grind yourself to death and become a multimillionaire super fast. Or you can focus on things that matter most in life and be happy most of the time. And when trouble comes, because trouble comes regardless, right? Regardless.
Right.
But it's a lot nicer to solve problems with people that are like you and people that are willing to help, including your clients, than working for somebody that all they want to do is take advantage of you because you're getting so much money from them.
Right.
So that's my advice.
That is some great advice. I mean, I could ask another question, but I think that's a great way to end the interview. But we go into one last thing, which is if people want to learn more about you and your company, what's the best place to go to? Assuming your website, of course, so you can give your URL. But what's the best way if people want to work for you? That there's some rock stars out there who want to come your way. How do they get in touch with you?
So obviously through the website, the contact from there, or they can follow me on Twitter. I'm at David Mansilla with double L.
Great, and I'll put all of this in the show notes too for people so that they can easily find you. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. I think the people working for your company are lucky to work for you. Sounds like a great atmosphere and a great environment. So kudos to you for that, and thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for doing this podcast.
All right, everybody, until next time, be powerful.